There's today's stage at 213 kilometres, the longest of the race from Bilbao to Urdac's Dantxarinea. 4 third category climbs on the route, the summit of the last of them being the French-Spanish border. That sortie lasts 11 kilometres, then there's another between 31 and 8 kilometres to go when it returns to Spain for the finish. And the chances of a bunch finish disappeared into the distance fairly early. 12 men got in the day's break, none of them well placed overall, and they were allowed to build a huge lead. All the more time for the main field to appreciate the crowds and the scenery as the race headed along the coast and through San Sebastian, familiar to many of the riders from the one-day Clásica San Sebastian, usually held a few weeks before the Vuelta.
Through 10 kilometres, Valerio Conti is burying himself. He has a lead that has not been diminished over the last 3 or 4 kilometres, one bit by a chase group of some 5 riders. A lot of talent trying to track down the lone leader as we continue this sunny sojourn through the Basque Country, and that is the chase group. Way, way, way further back down, Chris Froome is just having a pleasant day out and almost like a recovery ride. That's pretty much what it is. Rory Sutherland heads affairs for Movistar, and a long, long time ago in this monstrously long stage, 213.4 kilometres, the longest stage of the Vuelta, the GC race decided not to happen today, and amongst them they all declared a truce, which leaves us with 12, and 12 then became 6, and now 1. Valerio Conti.
You saw Gogo there reaching his hand back to try and sling Danilo Viz, which sometimes happens. They're trying, now you can see that's how fast they're going, because they're all contributing, and sometimes they're probably so far in the red that you do genuinely miss a turn because you can't go, and then you might try and give the hand sling to the guy behind you to put them back in, so you're really working well together. Arguable whether that's a right thing to do, but
well, yeah. It's arguable whether it's legal.
Legal, yeah.
That's what it's arguable. Yeah. In fact, it's not even arguable, it's not legal. They aren't teammates, but at this point that's precisely what they are. No, yeah. Because if you're Valerio Conti, they are a team chasing you, and that is an unfair move.
No, exactly.
Anyway, I think the camera cut away just before it happened.
It didn't happen, unfortunately. It did. Gogol did put his hand out, but it wasn't taken.
Hand offered, gesture refused. 8k to go.
41 seconds. It's been stable now for the last 5Ks. So, and it's going to go uphill again now. So there's a chance that we'll see Conti take more timeouts again, judging by how quickly he's gone uphill, up the previous hills. But Gogol's really winding it up now. I think he understands it's got no choice. You've got to go.
Lagutin's being put a little bit under pressure. Yves Lampaert doesn't look massively comfortable in the big frame of Lengen. Looks a little laboured too. Gogol just, well, he does a bit and then he looks for help and he's not getting it. So they're all sitting on the wheel of the Austrian and watching Valerio Conti's advantage. Look, he does climb. He really does climb, Conti. Especially on this kind of these short, punchy little climbs.
You can see he's looking good. He's not tiring. He actually looks faster than that group behind.
Yeah.
And he is. He's got 44 seconds. The time gap's actually going up. So this is 45 seconds. So you can see he's on the terrain that suits him best. And the brake's going to see that, and they're going to start. There you go. They're going to start breaking apart now.
Vegard Lengen, I think that's probably his 4th attack. Provokes a response from Michael Gogol. 2 time trialists heading affairs here. Former Swiss road race champion Danilo Viz from BMC. Closing the gap. Lagutin sitting on the wheel now of Gogol, and Lampaert increasingly being put under pressure. And look at that gap just opening up to the back wheel of Lagutin. It's hurting the Ethics Quick-Step man just to get back into that chase group. I wonder if that's the end of his race. Well, they've slowed slightly at the front again, and the advantage is absolutely constant. 43, 44, 45 seconds, and once again it kicks up, and once again it plays to the strengths of Valerio Conti.
That's a hard little climb, this. So it's no easy finish, that's for sure. But he's pushing over, and once he's at the top of this, that's going to be it. It's going to descend all the way down to the finish, really. It's just a couple of little undulations, but he'll know that. He's already seen it. They've been through it once before, and he knows what awaits him now. So it's before long, he can believe that he's got this unless it's an incident or an accident.
Well, you might have been forgiven for slightly forgetting that Lampre Merida were in this bike race. 51 seconds now, the advantage continuing to grow. And we saw Louis Meintjes uncharacteristically in a breakaway move yesterday. That didn't come to much. But if they score with this, then their whole Vuelta has been vindicated, essentially. It's job done. One stage victory normally does it, even for a team like Lampre Merida.
This is a great ride by Conti to go away in his own 54 seconds. He's almost taken a minute out of them. But they're about to drop down now and start heading towards a finish. So Lampard has now been dropped, which
well, that was coming, wasn't it? That was coming, has to be said. Lampard just holding on for grim death, and now he's no longer there. Just 4 riders remain in this chase group, and once again they're looking at each other, which is pointless at this moment. So he's done his reconnaissance, and now he'll get a word of encouragement from his director sportif.
I think he'll just probably be telling him, I think you've got this. Don't crash.
Yeah, stay upright, keep pedaling, and victory is not assured, but a likelihood.
Look at that, even after those attacks behind, the time gets remained 54 seconds. That just goes to show how strong Conti is going. The big move from Gurgel and those dropping riders, and yet it just changes nothing up ahead for Conti.
Well, these roads are very reminiscent, if you followed the Giro d'Italia this year, of the first Italian stage when they flew and they left the Netherlands, and it was stage 4, right down in Calabria, in the far, far south of Italy. Very, very similar terrain, and it was won by his teammate on that particular occasion, Diego Ulissi, but this man did a huge job dragging the Diego Ulissi up the penultimate short, sharp, uncategorised climb of that day. Very, very similar terrain indeed. He looks like a kind of Julien Alaphilippe rider, a kind of Ardennes rider, one of these explosive climbers with a fast finish as well.
He does. I don't know him so well, but seeing him like that, he does look like he's quite a punchy climber. And for sure, to be able to get away and do what he's done today, you're definitely what they probably refer to as more of a puncher. But yeah, I mean, he's looking strong. It's to be able to ride away, do 19, 20 kilometers on your own at the end of a stage like this, at this point in the Vuelta. Yeah, that's a very strong performance, and that's more than just a pure climber.
Well, when these Movistar riders get to their hotel rooms in the evening, maybe they'll switch on the highlights and watch what actually happened in the race, because they have been distant spectators 25 minutes further down the road. Just 4k to go for Valerio Conti, and his lead is edging now towards 1 minute, and pretty soon we can be declaring him and calling him the de facto winner of stage 13, I think, because this is looking increasingly impossible now. Brilliant ride.
55 seconds, 3.4 Ks at the front, 4 Ks for these riders, so you can see it's almost a kilometre. That's how fast it is. It's almost a kilometre difference between between Conti and these 4 riders. So this is the slight descent going towards the finish now. There you go. Yeah, that goes to show the size of the gap.
3k to go and a kilometre of tarmac to make up. It's impossible now. Valerio Conti can start to finesse his celebration, I think.
Yeah,
and days like this, I mean, you know, they sometimes, if you watch Grand Tours, you think, oh, well, this is a bit of a pointless day out. But actually, towards the end, they have their own fascination. It essentially becomes a one-day race.
Very much so. I mean, especially a day like today, we've got 25 minutes, now coming to 26 minutes. That means that the tactics do completely change. And it has been a one-day race, granted a smallish one. It doesn't have the same. One-day races are very particular in that they just get faster and faster and faster, whereas on a day like this, they'll have broke the first bit wood hard for the break to go away, the 12 riders. Then essentially it's sort of just threw it off for 4 hours, 4.5 hours, and then you start racing again.
It's almost like we fast forwarded to the final selection of a one-day race, and that it's all kicked off in the final 30, 40k.
And contrary to a one-day race, they never really know what the finale is going to be. In a one-day race, they're races you've done over and over again. You've done the reconnaissance. In a Grand Tour, you're coming to the finish. I mean, today's a little bit different. When they cross the finish line, they got to do a big lap. But often you're coming in and you have to make your tactics up as you go along.
What will be going through his mind? Breakthrough win for Valerio Conti. And there's a great deal of prestige to be had for a second place in the Vuelta stage. Only one of the riders in the breakaway today had a Grand Tour victory to his name, and that was Sergei Lagutin. And he only got his victory, of course, on stage 8 of this edition of the race. All the other riders were in virgin territory, essentially, hunting for their first Grand Tour victory, and Valerio Conti is virtually assured of his now.
Well, they're still riding well together, these 4 riders, which is quite surprising, really.
Yeah, because there's nothing at stake except this second place, the sprint for second now,
yeah,
and third. He's gone. Conti has left them all for dead.
But they are looking behind. I mean, we haven't seen what's behind them, whether there are other riders catching up to them now. But
that's true. That is true. But his advantage is going to be close to a minute, if not more than a minute, by the time he hits the finishing line. And he's in the barriered section, he's through the Flamme Rouge, just considerably less than 1 kilometre to go, a couple of sweeping turns. You'll see the sign that says just 500 metres. He can coast home if he wants. He can virtually step off and lift his bike in the air and just walk across the line if he were that way inclined. His margin of victory is that emphatic, and Valerio Conti can celebrate a brilliant and ferocious attack that produces a reward that he probably wouldn't have dreamed of when he set off today in the company of those 11 other strong riders. He shakes his head almost as if he can't believe it himself. It was that simple. Hit them once, hit them twice, and the third time, make it pay. Riding into the best victory of his career. Valerio Conti points at his team, sponsors, and the world watches on as another Italian talent emerges. Where will his career end up? And where are the best of the rest? A long way down the road is the answer.
Oh, it's been an interesting sprint.
Yves Lampert's got back.
Yeah, that's probably what they were looking at before, but he's going to go straight by.
Well, that would be an irony, wouldn't it, after all that? Instead, the Belgian, well, he's opened up a gap and they are cooked. And I wonder who's going to be able to respond. Lagoutin finally moves to the front. This is almost insolent from Yves Lamper, who was not the strongest in that group, but their slow deceleration allowed him to get back on as they lost contact with Valerio Conti. Yves Lamper was clearly engaged in a battle all of his own just to get back on their wheels, and in the end, in the finishing straight, the rider from Ethics Quickstep might well do them in the sprint. He's probably got the fastest finish of anyone, but he went very, very early, didn't he? And Lagoutin is now in a battle with Danilo Vis. It's going to be Vis who takes second place, Lagoutin in third. Lengen might just have edged out. A very interesting ride from Michael Gogol for the minor placings. Cesare Benedetti comes through the line, Jelle Valais, Gatis Smukulis, and that's about it from the breakaway. Stefan Rosetto, the last man across the line from Cofidis. I think that was it. I think they're all in. Valerio Conti, though, is your winner. And now we all bed down for a long, long wait before the red jersey group, led by Movistar, deign to finish their particular race.
Right, let's check the stage results, the first part of it at least. 55 seconds on the line between Valerio Conti and the men he left behind, which was the equivalent of a photo finish compared to the distance the main field was behind him. And while we're waiting for them, let's hear from the stage winner.
Oggi ho azzeccato sia la fuga giusta che la giornata giusta perché mi sentivo benissimo. Ho sfruttato il momento sul tratto più duro, diciamo, del finale. Ho attaccato con tutte le mie forze. Ho visto che spingevo bene e ho ottenuto più che potevo fino all'arrivo.
Questa vittoria cambia qualcosa per il tuo futuro?
Beh, sicuramente è la mia prima vittoria in un grande giro come la Vuelta. Sono molto giovane e per come avevo iniziato non avevo le migliori sensazioni, però giorno dopo giorno andavo meglio. Oggi ti dico che stavo benissimo e ho sfruttato l'occasione nel migliore dei modi.
Now, Valerio Conti had over 33 minutes to wait behind the podium for the main field to appear in the home straight, and Rory Sutherland, having sat on the front all day, was pipped at the line by Alejandro Valverde. 33 minutes 54 was the official time gap. Oscar Pereiro won the Tour de France in 2006 by getting into a break that gained 29.57. All the favourites and all but 6 of the non-favourites were in that group. And once they were in, the podium presentations could finally begin, Valerio Conti having done the longest warm-down in Grand Tour history in between. Sergei Lagoutin will have been the least disappointed of Conti's breakaway companions, already having a stage win, and knowing as he did that he'd taken the Mountains jersey as reward for his long day out.
Sergei, I know you wanted to get in the break today, but is this Mountains jersey just a pleasant surprise?
Well, yeah, sort of, I would say. You know, I was definitely planning to be in the breakaway, and my sport director told me, listen, if you're gonna win all this mountain sprints, you know, you get your jersey back. So that was the first goal, and yeah, that's what I did. I see nobody was very, very interesting, you know, to fight for a jersey, so I won them all, and then I went for a stage, and it obviously didn't work out. I spent a lot of energy on climbing, so but that's okay.
None of the men in the day's break was within striking distance of Alejandro Valverde in the points competition, so the standings there are as they were this morning. Absolutely no change in the GC, other than 12 riders being over half an hour further up from where they were this morning, but none of those was anywhere near the top 10. Which means another day in the red jersey for Nairo Quintana, who said after yesterday's stage that there was no such thing as an easy day in the Vuelta, and was extremely happy to have been proved wrong today.
Sí, pudimos guardar fuerza para mañana e ir más tranquilos. El equipo también tuvo que trabajar con una intensidad menor y esperar mañana a ver qué puede pasar en la subida al whisky.